Howdy fellas, today I'm going to teach you how to get a good handle in car and automation and how to use this little graph. So as a note, you don't, if you're designing cars just to go in BeamNG Drive, then you don't really need to follow this graph too much. This is a good guideline, but a lot of like what BeamNG tells you to do doesn't really reflect how it'll perform in BeamNG. So yeah, so just take this graph with a grain of salt if that's all you're trying to do. So let's get right into this. So the yellow line is that represents your car's performance, your handling performance, with the current setup that you have. So what you're trying to do is you want to get this yellow line. You want to keep it in the oversteer part of the grid for like most of this like rise here, and then at the end you want it to go down into the understeer. You want it to go get it as close to this gap. I don't think you can make it through the gap. I don't think that's how the graph works. So if you have this yellow line here going up, the game will actually get mad at you because you're going to allow the car to terminally oversteer. So I'm going to reduce the rear grip by making the back tires a little bit narrow, and as you can see the line is going up, and this is terminal oversteer. So this means that like when you're going at a certain speed, so when you're going at about 50 miles an hour, if you're turning the wheel all the way to one side, the car is going to start to spin. So yeah, so as you can see, this it says the car terminally oversteers, reducing cornering performance and drivability. So we're going to go back up to 245, and as you can see, our sportiness is back at 100%. So I'm gonna leave all my handling characteristics as they are because this is this is ideal. This is this is a sports car, as you can tell. Where's it back? Just in case any of you are interested in my design prowess. Anyways. So the biggest way to change your handling characteristics is the tires, as I showed you. You kind of just have to play around with this stuff, like tire diameter. Um, Rim diameter is more of a cosmetic thing. You just kind of have to get that where you like it, and then play around with the tire diameter. You know. So the main way you get changes in your handling characteristics is by messing around with the tires and stuff. And sometimes you may find that the game will only be like happy with you if you use like really like thin wheels like that. And it makes the car look really weird because now the wheels are sitting like really far into the wheel wells. And as a general tip, the rims of cars, they don't start to get close to the wheel well until like kind of like the 80s and 90s, like late 80s, early 90s. So that's just something to keep in mind. So if you find that if you're working on a modern car and you find that like the wheels are really far into the wheel wells, you can use this thing called rim offset, and it does change your handling characteristics a little bit, but it's not like a huge difference. So yeah, so that's how you get your wheels to look nice even if they're like on thin tires. So the next thing you can do to change your handling characteristics is by selecting a few of these options, and you can have an active wing, or the cooling flaps don't do too much to like the handling characteristics, but they do change it a little bit because you're taking the aerodynamic the aerodynamic properties of your flaps on the car to like cool the engine and your brakes and stuff. Just take some experimentation to find out what's gonna make your car like ideal, either in terms of drivability or sportiness. And the next thing that you can also change to get a better like sportiness figure or drivability figure for your car is to mess around with the suspension options. Generally, if you're making a road car, what you're gonna want to choose is sport. If you're trying to make a sporty car or whatever suits your preferences and stuff like that. So I just realized I completely forgot what I was trying to say here. What I was trying to say is that use pretty much any one of these except for race, unless you're trying to get a race car, because race car will lower your bleh, competitiveness in all categories down to 0, because the comfort stat won't be there. It'll be literally 0, because it's gonna like really tighten up these dampers and roll bars and stuff like that. So yeah. And another thing to keep in mind is your roll angle. You can change that by messing around with these, the sway bars, and this makes them tense, which means that like your car will roll over once it's like at a certain angle. It's a pretty self-explanatory name. Um, so yeah, you can tense these up, and generally, um, sports cars and supercars are going to have less roll angle. They're going to be at like so supercars generally are at like 3 degrees, and sports cars are anywhere from like 5 to 3.5 ish, and like off-roaders and stuff, you want a really high roll angle, so you can do that by just reducing the tension on your sway bars. So yeah, pretty easy stuff. One last thing to keep in mind is that suspension should always be the last thing you look at and change, because um, taking away parts and adding parts and stuff like that is going to change the way your car handles, even if it's just like a 3 pound change or something like that, and you might upset the game or whatever. So suspension should always be the last thing you do. Um, just because there's nothing else that's really that affected by changing your car's weight. So yeah.